Chapter 24. Wendy welcomed Dipper back to the shack with a quick peck on the lips. Then he walked past her over to Grunkle Stan and held out the new key and the original. Stan reached out and Dipper dropped both keys into his hand. "Here, Grunkle, don't lose the old key or you won't get a new key." "Haha. Good one, kid." And Stan smiled. "You're so funny." And Wendy reached out to Dipper and gave a gentle twist to his ear. "Funny? Why, what's funny?" "The joke you just made." "Oh. I didn't know it was a joke. I guess I didn't get it when Tom Bray." And Dipper went quiet as he looked at the floor in confusion, removing his hat and scratching his head. Wendy now looked concerned. She tilted her head as she looked at Dipper and placed her hands on her hips. "Wait, Tom Bray? She said that? To you? When?" Dipper put his hat back on and looked up. "This afternoon on the way to town." "Well, she walking back from town as I was walking to town." Wendy smirked. "Oh, her and Robbie, coming back from the music store for the millionth time?" "Well no, actually she was by herself." Wendy's smirk vanished. "Oh. So you and her talked?" "Yeah. She dropped her phone and I picked it up and gave it to her. Then I told her I was getting a new key and she told me not to lose the old one. Or I wouldn't get a new one. Or something like that. The old drop the phone trick." Wendy looked to the side and thought. "Is something wrong? What's the joke? I don't get it." Stan laughed, and then walked away. "I ain't touching that one." Haha. He left Wendy and Dipper alone. Wendy looked up and smiled. "Oh, it's an old joke. I'll explain it later. I'll be back in a few." She went to the cash register counter to get her phone, and looked up Tom Bray's blog. She better not be trying to bait my boy. She pulled up Tom Bray's website. Tom Bray's blog hadn't been updated in over 24 hours. That's odd. She usually lets everyone know every little thing. Daily. Unless she's trying to hide something. This cyber silence is really suspicious. She wouldn't post something if she thought it would cause trouble. Wendy looked up and frowned. Then she noticed Dipper had followed her into the shack store lobby. "What's wrong, Wendy?" "Oh, nothing. Yet." "So what else did Tom Bray say, Dipper?" "Nothing much else. Except that she was done with Robbie, for leaving her alone so many times. She is done with Robbie. And starting with someone else." "My someone?" "Wendy. What? What's on your mind?" She realized she was letting her expressions mirror her thoughts. She smiled and walked over to Dipper and hugged him. They kissed briefly and then she whispered to him. "Dipper, what if Tom Bray hit on you? What would you do?" "What? No way." He looks genuinely surprised. "She did no such thing, babe, honest." Her flirting went right over his adorably naive head. "Good. But what if she did? What would you do?" "I told you, Wendy, I am not looking anymore. You're the only one I need. If she hit on me, I would tell her no. And then leave. Period. I can never betray you, Wendy. I love you." She nuzzled his nose. "I know, but I just want you to be aware that sometimes things happen, and to be prepared for it. I don't want her taking advantage of you. She is older than you and has feminine walls that might snare you." "Never, Wendy. I love only you. There is nothing she can offer me to ever make me leave you or cheat on you, never." And gently leaning forward, his lips possessing hers with conviction, he kissed her with passion to prove it. She wrapped her arms around his waist, and rewarded him with a sensuous kiss in a way he would not soon forget, a reward in advance for his faithfulness. That evening before bed, Tom Bray, wearing a lavender baby doll nightgown, was sitting in front of her computer. Usually she would type all night and go to bed way too late. But tonight she just stared at her screen. It wasn't for lack of things to say. She had pages and pages of stuff to say. But her internal filter, her social filter, blocked her from typing. She was in a moral dilemma. I want to write about my feelings for him. But then Wendy will read it and hate me. She might even kick my butt. And, well, I don't want to lose her as a friend. But I really want a guy, a nice guy. A guy who likes me and treats me nice and is romantic. But Robbie, he doesn't even care about me anymore. He still hasn't called or texted me. Her eyes began to get a little blurry as she stared at the screen. She grabbed a tissue and dabbed her eyes. I can't even get a jerk like Nate to care about me. I only know guys who are jerks or selfish or clueless. Dipper. He knows how to treat a lady. I think. He even cares about me. At least enough to treat me nice and show some courtesy. Salty sadness trickled down her soft cheek, the teardrop falling from her face and landing on her thigh. She sighed, her head resting on one hand, and with the other pointed to the power button and turned it off. But still she sat, not quite wanting to go to bed unresolved. She pushed the power button again, turning it on. Then again, off. Then on. Then off. Sitting in the dark, she looked out her window. The moon was coming up over the forest treetops. It was a beautiful view. She sighed again and got up, and climbed into bed. Laying down on her back, she stared at the ceiling. Her mind wouldn't stop. Leaving a pretty girl like you alone? It's his loss, you know. Wow. I haven't been called pretty in ages. But what did I say to him? Thanks for picking me up. Don't lose your old key or you won't get any new key. Don't be a stranger. He must think I am a total ditz. He wouldn't find me as interesting as Wendy. She follows him into caves, climbs trees, hell, she swings from tree to tree like a freaking monkey. If she is that limber and nimble, she probably does acrobatics with him when they're alone that blow his mind. She rolled over onto her side, hugging her pillow, but her mind was still whirling. How can I be interesting to him? And maybe, if I can get his attention, the other boys might perk up and notice me too. But what do I do? Blog. And selfies. I'm a nerd. She closed her eyes as the tears started again. She cried herself to sleep hugging her pillow. That same moonlit night that shined upon a tearful Tombury, Dipper was lying in bed unable to sleep. Mabel was fast asleep, having gone to bed on her side facing her pinned-up photos of the Corduroy brothers, too preoccupied to care about her brother's love life at the moment. Don't lose your old key or you won't get any new key. Wendy had explained the phrase to him, and now he realized that Tombury had indeed been flirting with him. You're such a gentleman. And a handsome one too. Definitely flirting. I never told Wendy that part. A good thing too after hearing what Wendy told me later about Tombury hitting on me. Wendy is on to anything that may come between us. Well, nothing will ever come between us. He rolled over on his side and saw the picture on the wall above his bed of him and the crew 2 years ago at the convenience store, the selfie Tombury took when they broke inside. Dipper was between Tombury and Mabel. Wendy was on the other side of Mabel, the center of the crew, the boys on the other side. The perspective made it seem all the girls wanted to be next to Dipper. Tombury had printed out with the caption, Dr. Funtimes and crew. She had her hand on his shorter, younger self, on his shoulder trying to squeeze him in, so everyone could fit in the selfie. Don't be a stranger. Dipper shut his eyes and rolled over to the other side. He could only see Mabel's back under the blankets, and her wall with photos all over it. One photo was of all the brothers and her, with Wendy behind them. Wendy. I love you, Wendy. Nothing will come between us. What would you do if Tombury hit on you? Dipper rolled onto his back and stared at the ceiling again. He could hear Wendy as if she were there. Sometimes things happen. I may be the first, but I won't be. You're last. For a brief moment Dipper allowed himself to imagine what it would be like. Tombury is really pretty. And she always smells nice too, nice perfume. I always liked her eyes. Her eyes always look lovable, lovey, dovey. And when she smiles, it is a wicked naughty little smile. Like she wants to fool around. He imagined leaning in close and kissing her. I wonder if her lips would feel the same as Wendy's. If her tongue He imagined holding her in his arms. She looks really huggable. And kissable. Then Dipper opened his eyes again. He was aware he was becoming excited. He rolled over and reached for the picture frame on his nightstand, the picture of Wendy and him, arm in arm, heads touching, and the happiest smiles he had ever seen on her or on a picture of himself, a couple obviously in love and happy together. "Wendy, I love you,"